question I got in my school community is, how do I manage my emotions so well? Well, the answer is, I've spent 10 years developing emotional intelligence. I better do. Otherwise, the skill set doesn't exist, right? Or I have failed miserably. So, yeah, that's the answer. Build emotional intelligence, period. So I'm going to go a little bit in depth about what emotional intelligence is, and in my framework, how does it look like? So if you don't know me, my name is Sankalp. I recently completed a PhD in psychology and neuroscience from the University of Oxford, and it is my mission in this world to understand and study the mind, happiness, suffering from all angles possible, be it through formal PhD studies or be it through more personal development ideas like meditation, self help, psychology, getting coaching, therapy, and whatnot. So, in my understanding of, I've spent 10 plus years studying how the mind works and personal development, like internally, like meditation and so on. And in my understanding, there, like emotional intelligence boils down to these four or five things. The number one is getting clarity. Like the one who has a compelling vision, the one who, thinks that, the future has a lot in store for me and I'm so excited for it. The compelling vision, compelling futures, I think what Tony Robbins calls it. I think that is the person who has no problems with motivation because you're driven. You look forward to the future by definition, right? And to have that future, we need a sense of clarity on who we are, what our needs are, how what does the world need, and finding that balance between who I am and what the world needs is like this perfect sort of ikigai concept. So having a sense of clarity and vision is point number one. Point number two is developing self-compassion. Like I notice a lot of people in this world are just driven, including myself in the past, are just driven by self-hate. Like the way we get things done is by putting pressure on ourselves, by being perfectionistic, or having this negative self-talk that, hey, if you don't do this, you're a loser, or that person will not like you, and blah blah blah. And really, it's a very bad fuel to do anything in the long run. So, developing self compassion and eliminating self hate has been a huge step for me in feeling good on a day to day level. In fact, of all the things I will say today, the number one thing that makes me feel great on a day to day level is actually not having self hate and largely having compassion and love for myself internally. Right. The third one is focus. So, having a control over your focus. If you are constantly distracted and if your focus is in the wrong places, then there's very little control over you have over your mood. And the reason for that is energy flows where focus goes, another Tony Robbins quote. And the idea is, if I'm focusing on all sorts of negative things in the world, then I'm going to feel negative. And if I'm focusing on positives, then I'm going to feel positive. And so you train your focus by things like meditation. We do like wins in the school community, we write wins. And one reason we do that is because it trains our focus to focus on things that are going right, at least going right more than going wrong, versus the natural tendency of the mind to just go to the wrongs and go to the negatives. So that's focus. Number four is having a strong sense of identity. Now, you might have this sense that, oh, I'm such a bad person, or I'm a loser, or I hurt others. And if you're carrying that with us, if that's our self identity perception, then we are going to feel bad, right? I spent a lot of time cultivating identities that serve me. Like, for example, one of my identities is like, I am bold, I'm confident, and I I practice courage. And when there is a moment, like for example, when I had to shoot this video, in fact, I had to shoot a video outside, and it was so quiet and everyone was in their houses, and I was like so scared to record this video because I was like, what if I'm disturbing others, right? But courage, right? I am the kind of person who is courageous, and so I did it. And so identity, being in touch with your identity, is very important because we constantly keep doing things in congruence with our identity, that is in alignment with our identity. So it's good or important to have a sense of what my identity is and what I want to cultivate, because the default is just, I'm not worthy, I'm a bad person, blah blah. That's identity. And the last point for emotional intelligence is action. And this is like, a lot of people who are into therapy, personal growth, they don't go out and take action. They seem to like just want to journal and meditate, but the moment it comes to talk to people or uh, like test your emotional intelligence in the world, there's nothing there. And that's because they haven't practiced it. So emotional intelligence is useless if not practiced in the world. Like, we don't want to be feeling good when you're on the meditation cushion. We want it to come out in the world. In fact, a lot of the emotional unintelligence, so all the negative patterns, they happen when we are growing up in the world, right? So it's as a result of our external messages that we get. So the way to undo it is to be in the same world, but now receive different messages from people who are perhaps more emotionally intelligent. And then you also transmit different messages about who your identity is and how confident you are and so on. So, a little bit vague in the last one, but action being important. Don't be just this armchair meditator who doesn't go out and take action. All right. So that was the five pillars of emotional intelligence. And I just found that is it. And that's good, right? Because that, I think, covers most issues that I think come up with not having to manage emotions. If I were to, and this is like specific to emotional, right? And the only thing I would pair with it is social intelligence and physical intelligence, which is like a different category than emotional intelligence. But if you don't have social connections, it's kind of hard to feel good. If you don't exercise, if you're like a bit of a couch potato, then it's also kind of hard to feel good. So you also need those foundations along with the five pillars that I said to have like this complete sense of feeling thriving on a day-to-day level. All I would say to end is it's possible. It's possible on a day-to-day level to feel good, to feel that you have an understanding of your emotions. It doesn't mean that you'll not feel sadness or anything. In fact, I think sadness is a great emotion as long as it doesn't spiral down and you feel like you have no control over it. So, emotional intelligence is not just about feeling good, in fact, but it's about having that sense of, I got this and nothing sort of like topples me too much, at least. So, hopefully that helps. And hopefully, you will practice one of these five pillars at least, and that's the path. And there are courses in the school community which might help. So, if you are into personal growth and so on, and if you're not part of the school community, join it. Link is down below. It's application only, private community. But if you're into personal growth, I would love to have you inside.